Distorted Fate, written by Selvak. Chapter 43, Past. Normally, I would approach a situation with some rational thinking, but this is one situation where I just tossed it all aside. All the mares on the table gasped at the sight of a chair flying through the air as it tried to reach its destination, which was Celestia's face. Sadly, a golden aura engulfed the chair, stopping it from succeeding in its objective.
Aether!
All the ponies around me exclaimed in shock. However, before any pony could get a word in, I slammed my forehooves onto the table as I yelled.
How dare you do something so stupid, so reckless! You just broke through the barriers between dimensions because you were lonely and smitten with some stallion? How are you even fit to rule this kingdom?
How dare thou accuse...
Luna began to say before Celestia raised the hoof to her sister's face in effort to silence her. Looking at me with shame, Celestia replied,
Aether, I understand that my actions have endangered our world in more ways than I thought. I am indeed ashamed of the recklessness of my actions, but I assure you that I have learned from my mistakes and I have resolved myself to undo the harm my actions have caused. Then you resolved yourself to a goal that you will never achieve.
I dryly replied before indicating with my hoof that I wanted my chair back.
What do you mean?
Celestia asked as her face took on a nervous look as she returned my chair.
Even if we fix this world's barriers, I highly doubt it wouldn't be noticed by both the Venonites or whoever sent the probes. You even have so many damn Morales shards all over the world, I bet some other nations have their hooves on them and toying with them as we speak. Face it, princess, the damage has been done. All we can really do is damage control.
Wait, Morales shards?
Twilight asked, unable to keep her curiosity in check.
Are you talking about those crystals?
Sighing, I looked at Twilight as I stated.
Can you ask me when the world isn't in danger? Because preventing the end of the world takes priority over curiosity.
I returned my attention to the other princesses and away from Twilight's unintentional pout.
Moving on, while I can help in the repairs of the world's barriers, the matter is that eventually some species will find this world. It could be in days, years, or even centuries, but this event has been noticed.
With those words, every pony in the room has gone silent until Celestia took a deep breath before she said,
I understand that this is a matter that we may need to address in the near future, but how will you be able to help us repair our world's barriers? That is easier said than done, since it seems that you have some understanding about the nature of different dimensions. Do you have some ways to find the damage? Sadly, there is no spell that would be able to identify nor locate such damage.
Celestia answered.
That would be a problem then,
I said as I rubbed the hoof against my chin.
Guess we can only try to make efforts to find a way to fix the damage. Which means we have to discuss the Morales shard now.
Before Twilight was able to continue her query though, Celestia raised the hoof to keep her quiet as she asked.
By these Morales shards, I take it that you're talking about those crystals found from the explosions.
Nodding, I replied.
Yes, those crystals are indeed Morales shards, though I'm calling them shards because when put together they form a Morales core. These cores are one of the many ways interdimensional species travel between the dimensions. Due to the mysterious effects magic has on the shards, along with the origin of the dimensional damage being magical in nature, there may be a way to use them to fix the cracks in the barriers.
Wait, would that mean that you would need enough shards to form a core?
Twilight asked, her quill scribbling any information I revealed.
Perhaps this would take some experimentation at first. Though for now, having all the shards from one explosion available should we need it would be the best approach.
I replied. Nodding, Celestia said,
Thankfully, due to the abundance of these explosions, we were able to secure all the shards of a few sites together. I will send for one collection to be retrieved.
I could also bring my notes and my own samples from my lab. Hopefully once I info...
Twilight started to say before I cut her off.
You don't have to tell me about your notes.
I said with a sheepish smile.
What do you mean? The experiments I have conducted... You already got your hooves on them, haven't you?
Twilight said as she narrowed her eyes at me. Rubbing a hoof against the back of my head, I replied.
Yeah, I needed to know more about how the shards reacted to magic. So, when I learned to read your language, I sort of snuck into your lab and copied your notes.
As Twilight's face started to darken at my little reveal, Rainbow said,
Wait a moment, you snuck into Twilight's lab?
Looking at Twilight, Rainbow questioned.
Don't you keep your lab locked?
Blinking, Twilight said,
Of course I do. Wait, did you steal my key too? Or did you make a copy of that as well?
No, I just used telekinesis on your lock. I practiced that on other locks.
I said as I felt my face getting warm from an embarrassed blush. Just as Twilight was about to open her mouth to scold me, Luna raised her hoof to silence her as she asked,
"'Tis an interesting use of thy magic. Judging by the age and knowledge, thou seem quite the skilled pony."
Yes, since it will take some time for the shards to be retrieved, I do believe that it is time that you enlighten us about yourself.
Celestia asked before calling over a guard to make the request for the core shards, including Twilight's own. Moaning, I slumped my head to my hooves as I whined.
Do I have to? Can't we focus on something else? My dear, while there are important matters we have to attend to, you did mention that these Morales shards could be the key to fixing the barrier. But since we don't have access to them yet, might we pass the time by listening to you regale us with your history?
Rarity replied. As I looked up to make a retort, I saw Pinky's face in front of me as she said,
Yeah, I could be a better foster parent if you tell me about yourself, so please tell us.
Before she gave me a watery-eyed look that normally fools give when they want something.
Ugh, fine. Just stop with the look.
I said as I tried to push Pinky's face away, all the while I heard some of the mares snickering at the scene before them.
So, what do you want to hear first then? Well, since you were a different species, how about you tell us about them first?
Celestia asked.
Good point. You're practically like an alien ambassador for your species.
Twilight exclaimed as the other ponies leaned their heads in closer. Cocking an eyebrow, I looked at all of them before I said,
Okay, this is all you need to know about my species. There is absolutely nothing you need to know about them.
My unexpected answer caused all the ponies to tilt their heads as they all said, Huh? Before Twilight broke first.
What do you mean there is nothing we need to know about them? They're an alien species. They could have technological advancement and cultural achievement. I mean, your kind can travel dimensions. How can they be nothing?
Twilight took a deep breath before she continued, but stopped as I let out a cold laugh.
You assume too much, Twilight. Way too much.
I said, causing Twilight's anger to fade away into surprise.
The reason they are nothing is 'cause my species is dying out.
This caused every pony to gasp in shock, Rarity even going as far as to put a hoof to her mouth. This time though, Fluttershy was the first to speak as she asked,
Why is your species dying out?
letting out a hollow chuckle, I answered.
As glorious as being able to safely travel dimensions can be to you, there are also great problems linked to it too. My species was one of the many unfortunate species to be discovered by an interdimensional nation, and we were more unfortunate to have very underdeveloped technology. From what I heard from my parents, I believe that we are even behind what this world has now. Which means your species and their world could be taken advantage of.
Celestia stated when I paused for breath. Nodding, I replied.
Correct, and this led to my species becoming one of the many species that ended up in the bottom of the social order. Due to our status of being highly uneducated, we were forced to either take on menial labor or dangerous jobs, or just starve to death. And since we have to compete with so many other downtrodden races, we had to scatter through other worlds just to make a living. This took its toll on us as we died off from disease, starvation, or violence.
My last word caused every pony to gasp and whiten at it.
Eventually, after many generations, either a species somehow is able to uplift itself from the bottom of the social caste, or it is just begins to die off, like mine has. This is the cold reality of dimensional society.
Wait a minute, hold up.
Rainbow said before she pointed a hoof at me.
You said your species have to do dangerous or menial jobs. But you travel dimensions. That doesn't sound like it would fit either.
This caused me to let out another cold laugh as I replied.
Assumptions once more. The cold hard fact is that it's also a low pay, high risk job. With a large pool of labor to draw from, various organizations and nations just send ponies like me to a world where they just give us the amount of time before the return gate opens. If we return and we give them results, or we don't return and they just send a larger group or a professional, in all honesty, most folk end up dying from their first few trips.
Leaning back into my chair in the way that would suit a biped, I watched as the mare stared at me with mortified looks. Even the princesses were disturbed, which I would have found amusing until I was engulfed in Pinky's embrace as she said,
You poor pony! No pony should have such unhappy times!
As she rubbed a hoof against my back, I could hear all the ponies let out an awe at the sight.
Pinky, remember that I'm mentally an adult?
I said as my face reddened from embarrassment.
You may be mentally an adult, but you're in the body of a foal, which, unless it's a disguise, I'll be going under the assumption that you are physically your age. Hence, you still need to be nurtured like any foal your age.
Celestia said with a small smile.
Princess Celestia did bring up a good point. If you were a different species, why did you appear as a foal if you were an adult?
Twilight asked.
In all honesty, I wasn't supposed to come to this world. I just appeared here instead of where I was supposed to go, and in this form as well. Though, judging by how the probes exploded when they come to this world, I guess it's due to the presence of magic.
I replied with a shrug.
Wait, based on what you said about the morale shards and magic doing to this, are you saying that there wasn't magic in the dimension you came from?
Twilight asked. Sighing, I answered.
Yes, there was no presence or even the concept of magic from where I came from. Hence my physical change and the explosions. It was simply an issue no species ever had to deal with before.
Astounding! Maybe the magic of our world converted your body in one that is compatible with it. It makes it more likely to happen since your entrance to our world was caused by magical reasons as well.
Twilight said as she scribbled out some more notes.
Okay, though there is one question I have in regards to that. Now before I say it, you all might want to brace yourselves. It's almost as shocking as my announcement of my alien origins.
Unless you were a stallion before you came to this world, I doubt anything is as freaky as an alien.
Rainbow said with a wave of her hoof. However, my deadpan stare that I leveled at her caused her to scrunch her face in confusion before it fell into an expression of shock, matched by all her friends, even the princesses matched it.
Don't tell me.
After letting the silence go on for a moment longer, I took a deep breath and said,
Unfortunately, you're right, Rainbow.
This caused nearly all the mare's jaws to drop, the only exception being Rarity, who instead fainted.
Yeah, I know. This is going to get awkward fast.
And here you have it. Another chapter of Distorted Fate. I know I should be putting something spooky on this day, but since I couldn't find anything, I instead decided to just put up another Distorted Fate chapter since it was a long while since the last one. I hope you liked it, and yeah, I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye!